There we go. We've got the coach there. Coach Lang, we apologize for that. Thank you so much for holding on and hopping on with us. How you doing today, sir?
I'm great, fellas. How are you guys?
Better now that we're talking to you. We appreciate your patience as we figured out whatever gremlins were going on in the line there. Congratulations.
Guys, if this is the worst thing that happens to us on everything we're all going through, I'm all good, man. Thank you for having me on.
Congratulations. Huge night last night. You guys raised over $500,000 with Coaches versus Cancer. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like last night and what the experience is like for you to participate in such an effort?
Well, my favorite part of the entire broadcast last night was listening to Coach Martelli and Coach Dunphy just talk about the history. You know, there's a lot of people that are just picking up everything that Coaches versus Cancer has been doing in terms of the Philadelphia City Six schools over, maybe the last few years or last 6 years. But when you date this all the way back to when the first seeds were planted and the efforts of all of the City Six schools, but in particularly Coach Martelli and Coach Dunphy, and then how their spouses got involved and how it has grown to this point. I just found that to be very inspiring. I think it's great history, and it shows the depth of thought that has gone into getting it where it was as it is right now.
Coach, you're part of a really, as you said, the history goes back a while. So you're now part of a really important fraternity of coaches in this community that have kind of built upon this. What's it like to be part of this fraternity of coaches?
I grew up just over the bridge in South Jersey, Haddon Heights, New Jersey, and the Big Five has been a part of my basketball journey, as a youngster and then as a coach. I've been an assistant under Speedy Morris at LaSalle, under Jay Wright at Villanova, and now I have an opportunity to steward the program here at St. Joseph's. And then when you just think about the history of the great players and coaches, to just be one small part of this, this story of it is so much bigger than any one human being, but to be one small part of this is really awe-inspiring, to be honest with you. I just hope I'm worthy of doing it.
Well, clearly you're worthy and doing a great job, developing these players as you try to build a program. What's it like to involve your players in this effort, and how can that help you? We like to ask coaches, sort of make them understand that there's more to life than just playing basketball, even though that's really important.
Yeah, I mean, that's a large part of what we try to do anyway, fellas. And it's so easy for us as coaches and players to get caught up in what we do, and what we do matters. Like, the importance of all of these 6 basketball programs to the health of their universities and to the spirits of the universities is a big deal, but it is just one part and one dimension of what we can be and what we can do in terms of serving a greater cause. So when you look at the stories, some of the ones that were attached to that piece last night, and then some of the other ones, and then just looking at how our players are able to react to, a Jack Claran or an Andy Seeley, for example, or some of the history of, some of St. Joe's closest people to the program battling against cancer. I just think it level sets, like, okay, we're just basketball players, like, for a big portion of our lives, but we have an opportunity to use this basketball platform to serve others and to learn what others go through as well, which really gives us a sense of resilience.
You talk about using the platform. What's it been? I mean, look, this is an unusual time. None of us have ever seen anything like this. We've talked to other coaches about how you deal with these young adults and how you deal with these unusual times. What's it been like for you as a coach to talk to these student athletes and talk about how they're going to use their platform and how they're going to be responsible with it?
Well, I mean, there's a lot going on in our world, from COVID-19 to social justice, and that does not suppress the need to continue this battle against cancer. It's just all of these things are important. You can't just pick and choose which one is. Some might be a little bit more passionate than others to certain human beings, but these are all important factors in our lives. So you just talk to them about what's going on. Don't try to hide anything. Be very, very real. Explain to them that there's a chance to gain great wisdom from this. There's a chance to serve people with this. There's a chance to respect people with this. There's a chance to elevate people with all that is going on. And there's no textbook or playbook for being a coach in any sport in the year of 2020. There just isn't. So the best thing we can do for our guys is love them. The best thing we can do is be honest with them. And the best thing we can do is tell them that this will be one small part of their lives. But what we will gain from this will become a huge part of who we are and what we can do.
Coach, you mentioned some of the social justice challenges that have come up, and we've talked to a lot of players and coaches about how when there have been conversations among teams, you've seen teams grow closer. Can you talk about what it's been like with you and your players, some of the conversations and challenges that these young adults have had to face that they've probably already known about that other people may just be coming?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge, without revealing too much that is said behind our doors, is just we need to feel that it's okay to be vulnerable. Like I just take it as myself. I'm a 48-year-old white male. I've got a lot to learn. So we have to be willing to learn. I want our black basketball players to share their experiences. I don't want our white players to feel guilty, because that guilt will paralyze us, and that paralysis will stop us from taking real action to help people that need it, people that we are very, very close to. So the conversations we have been real. They've been authentic. I'm just the kind of person that likes to just talk. If it's there, let's talk about it. Let's not dance around it. And I've learned a lot. I've been inspired by the conversations. I have watched our guys grow closer, and often that's what happens in challenges. People will either divide or unite. We've got a great spirit at St. Joseph's University, so we've united with this. And, I even talk about, where does systemic racism play in our battle in Coaches versus Cancer? Like, how do we help people that are not given the privilege and opportunity to get real help to battle cancer? So even at the level of Coaches versus Cancer, there's a way to tie in what is happening in the world in terms of systemic racism and social justice to help people that have cancer. And this stuff does not have to be siloed. They can become inclusive, and I want us to think about ways where we can help.
So before we get to what you're doing with St. Joe's, we would be remiss in not asking you, what was the experience like coaching at a place like Navy? We have had the Navy football coach on. By the way, I wanted Jason to introduce you because Jason had a harder time with the last Navy coach.
I got it. Ken Malolo, football coach. I butchered his name the first time we talked, but I got it right eventually, Coach.
That's right.
I persistence. I didn't give up. Okay.
Yeah. So what was it like having the opportunity to coach midshipmen?
Well, first, Coach Niumatalolo. How did I do there, guys? Was that pretty good?
Great. Yes.
All right. Well, I should be okay. He was there all 7 years I was there. He's such a great man. So I did not know that you guys had him on, but what an amazing leader. What a great coach. But the heart of who he is as a human being is really what makes him a great coach. So that was probably really cool that you guys got to connect with him. My experience at Navy, I mean, listen, I was hired at the age of 32. I had the passion for the job. I had the energy for the job. I had probably a baseline of basketball intelligence for the job, but I did not have the maturity of a leader at that time. So being able to grow in the Naval Academy, learning from so many different people, whether it was our AD, Chet Gladchuk, or our coaches like Paul Johnson or Kenny Niumatalolo, or guys that headed up the Stockdale Center like Colonel Art Athens, who was a retired Marine Corps colonel, General Fuquay. I mean, all the commandants that I learned from, the experience I took from there, forget the basketball for a second, but the experience that I took from there from a leadership standpoint was priceless. The young men that I got to coach, I mean, I thank them that they went through that journey with me when I was still very, very young, and the relationships I have with them now. I just learned a lot about myself. It was a very revealing time, and at the same point, I feel like I gave them everything I can. But being there at the Naval Academy, being in the city of Annapolis was a special moment in my life.
You mentioned becoming coach there at 32. You've wanted to be a coach for a long time. Your dad was a coach. You have studied under some amazing names: Herb McGee at Philadelphia University, Speedy Morris, Jay Wright. You worked on Brett Brown's staff. Can you talk about how your coaching philosophy has been shaped by the people who have been around you and how you push that forward to your players?
Yeah, I mean, and not only was it Herb McGee and Speedy Morris, my father also is a state Hall of Fame coach in the state of New Jersey, Jay Wright, Brett Brown, And then it's all the people that they've learned under, right? So Jay Wright coached with Rolly Massimino, and Brett Brown coached with Greg Popovich. So you get a little bit of what their journeys and their trees has been as well. And then ultimately you have to be yourself. And every one of those men that you have mentioned have encouraged, me to, you got to be your own person. So you are who you are at your core, but then you learn from them. And it is X's and O's, but it's a lot of leadership stuff. I learned a lot about being a husband and a father in this profession from Brett Brown. He's a terrific man. Herb McGee and his dedication to his children. I really just learned a lot from these guys. Jay Wright's commitment to the institution, Speedy Morris's ability to continue to keep his lifelong childhood friends. I mean, I've been around guys that have also shown me how to do it, not just from an X's and O's standpoint. It's been a real blessing. I'm very fortunate.
So we're going to have basketball supposedly this season. What are you most looking forward to?
I love every day that we get to be in the gym with our players training. I mean, this has been a unique time with masks on, and you got to social distance, and you can only have so many people in a gym at one time. And it's different rules across the country, so we're not all level set in terms of competing and training the same way. So this has been interesting. So what I'm most looking forward to is, actually playing in a game and seeing, what teams look like that are basically training and practicing under, somewhat similar rules, but really very different rules as well. I just want our guys to play. We have a very new team. They need game repetitions. They need competitions. And we love representing the brand of St. Joe's University and the story of St. Joseph's basketball. So I'm excited to see how this group puts all that together.
Well, Coach, before we let you go, we wanted to thank you again for everything that you're doing with Coaches versus Cancer. And we know it didn't end with the event last night. How can people contribute to the Coaches versus Cancer cause going forward?
Well, I would encourage, if anyone is listening to this and didn't watch last night's episode, if they could tune in tomorrow at 5 on NBC Sports Philadelphia and look at it and be inspired, that would be great. And going on our website, www.phillycvc.org, and having an opportunity to see there are a lot of areas in Coaches versus Cancer that you might find passionate about to dedicate some funds. And this is a really, really hard time financially for many people in our country right now, in our world really, but the battle against cancer doesn't stop. You guys have already mentioned, we've raised just over $500,000, and we want to just keep it going. And just, $10 matters, $50 matters. Yes, 1,000 matters and 50 grand matters, but every one of our dollars that we contribute adds up. And you know what, fellas, often the coaches get a lot of credit, but I do want to say this, in addition to thanking Coach Martelli and Coach Dunphy for really just getting this thing going, and hopefully we can live up to what they've done here. The work that Allie and Diana do day after day after day to keep this thing having some momentum, given the challenges we're all going through right now. Those two are really the rock stars. They are unbelievable in their passion for this battle right now against cancer, and I just wanted to make sure that they get a shout out today.
Coach, we will continue to push this out on our platforms and try and raise awareness. We thank you so much, like we said, for what you're doing. Wish you the best of luck with your team and as you guys get back on the court. And thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, fellas. Stay safe.
You take care. Jeff, I'm always so impressed. And I feel like it's what I say after every interview with these coaches. The quality of the people we have in this city that lead these teams is something else. It really is.
It really is. It's almost you said that you say it every week, and people may think that's repetitive, but it bears saying as much as you possibly can say it, because I don't think that people who aren't from here don't understand how lucky we are to have this kind of group of coaches, athletes, owners, people in the athletic departments of colleges. We're from that standpoint, from a community service standpoint, we are incredibly lucky.
What do you think? Was he more proud that he raised $500,000 for cancer, or that I got the Navy coach's name right?
I think he was more proud about the money raised for cancer. I think he was more impressed with the fact. Well, I was more impressed at how he got it right. But
surprised, whatever. No, and I mean,
see, but the only reason that's funny is pronouncing. Look, we both pronounce people's names wrong all the time. what's funny about it is very similar to the story that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where you bragged about how you had never cursed on the air, and that day, lo and behold, you did it. So as we were getting ready, because we interviewed the coach before the Army Navy game, and we did that in person, and you kept saying, "Oh, I got this," and you had a long explanation for why you were so good at
Yeah, I
pronouncing his name right,
back in my
and
day when I
and
may have
look
wagered the occasional dollar on a game,
right.
I would stay up and bet Hawaii all the time.
Right,
And
which is where he was before Navy.
so I knew how to say his name. I had no doubt going in. And we went up to him and I could not say
It
anything.
was like you had marbles in your mouth. It was like all of a sudden, because you said it about 10 times on the way there. You said it while we were there, and you were bragging about it, and your chest was all puffed out. And all of a sudden, we got up and we started to talk to him, and somehow it just left your head.
So embarrassing. So embarrassing. But I mean, he's impressive though. The Navy experience, and I did want to ask him about the learning tree because I mean, you talk about being surrounded by names in this profession. I mean, he has learned from some of the biggest names that there are.
Do you think so? We've now talked to three of the six in the last 3 weeks, and I get the impression, just from a leadership standpoint, that at least those three. Plus, we haven't talked to Jay Wright yet. We haven't talked to Aaron McKee yet, but it seems like these three are really going to be people that are going to be able to provide leadership, and leadership may provide really good programs. Are we in potentially the beginning of the next great Big Five, Big Six period where these teams are going to start playing and it's going to be competitive?
You know, it's interesting because I was wondering the same thing. And basketball's different now. Players can make a name for themselves anywhere. So you don't necessarily have to go to that top program where you may not get to play. And you listen to these guys. If one of them comes into your home and sells you and your parents on that, I mean, if you're a parent that just sent your son away to college, coach comes in and recruits your son, and that's what you hear, you're sending him there. If right? Like,
look, but yeah, my kid's a freshman in college now, and if he could shoot,
but we love how
if he could shoot better than he shoots, let's put it that way, and he was taller. Those three coaches that we've talked to, and especially Coach Lange today, I would have absolutely no hesitation. I would pull my kid aside and I said, look, that's the kind of person that you want to learn about life from. And to me, that's what coaching is. Yes, X's and O's. I have no question. The pedigree of these three coaches is impressive because of where they came from, and I think where they're going at this point in their careers. But you also want to have somebody who's going to provide them with leadership in directing their lives in a good direction. And when you have coaches that are talking about not just the X's and O's and talking about the game itself, but talking about how they themselves learned from these other coaches. Like, did you expect him to say that he learned from these great coaches in Philadelphia, that he learned from about being a better father?
that impressed.
That's the kind of thing. And so, and being impressed, he's following a legend in Phil Martelli. And the things that he talks about and the way that he talks about Phil Martelli, you can tell is genuine.
There's always the talk about a student athlete, and are they more student, or are they more athlete? Regardless of what they are, they're young men and young women that are developing in life.
They're human beings,
learning how to be adults and
right,
learning how to participate in society. And that's somebody on the air there. So it seems like he has his priorities straight in terms of what his focus is. And for his players, they will definitely benefit from that.